Intentional spending is a term that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and it's by no means a new concept, but I know personally, probably in the past 6 to 12 months, I've been hearing it more and more, like when I'm watching different videos or even when I'm reading different articles about personal finance. And for anyone who may not be familiar with this concept, it basically just means being more conscious of how you spend your money or being more aware of where your money is going. And by doing this, you can really consider whether a purchase is going to help you get to your bigger picture or if it's going to push you further away from your goals. And if you've seen any of my old videos, you know that saving money, frugal living, we talk a lot about that here. So that approach to spending is right up my alley. So in today's video, I'm going to run down a few different ways that you can save money by spending more intentionally. But before we get into the list, if you are new here, welcome. I create videos on different money topics. So if you like videos like this and you want to see more, do consider subscribing below. The first thing is to understand your goals or your reason for wanting to save money. When it comes to personal finances, some people like to make these blanket statements like, I want to be better with money or I want to improve my finances. Now, on one hand, it is really good and really smart to vocalize your goals, especially around other people, because it can make you more accountable. But sometimes it is not enough to simply say, I want to be better with money. A lot of times you have to know your reason or your motivation, because if you have a reason or a driving force, it is going to be so much easier to stick with your plan. So really think about why you want to improve your finances. And for everyone, this is going to be different. For some people, you might be tired of being broke or living paycheck to paycheck. For another person, maybe you want to have more experiences, or maybe you want to build a bigger cushion. Once you attach a reason to your goal, then you can start associating saving money with that goal and vice versa. Now, once you know your goal or your reason, before you make any purchase going forward, it is important that you ask yourself this question: will this purchase get me closer or farther away from my goals? And this is a vital question because a lot of times personal choice can affect our financial health. And I'll give you an example, and this is an example I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. You may legitimately need a new car because the car you're driving broke down, or maybe it's giving you a lot of problems, and you may not have cash to buy a car outright, meaning you have to finance a vehicle. Now, even if you can technically afford a $500 monthly payment, before making a certain purchase, really step outside the moment and think long term. Because if you have goals such as you want to build your retirement fund, or you want to get to a certain point in your emergency fund, and you go and get a $500 bill, how is that going to affect you hitting your goal in the future? Now, you may still hit your goal, but instead of hitting your goal in, say, a year, with this extra payment, it might now take you 3 years to hit this goal. You might be totally cool with that, but it might be better for your finances to spend half or a third of that on the car payment and put the rest into savings. That way, you're still able to get your car, but at the same time, you're not completely throwing off your financial plan. Intentional spending also involves knowing your values, or in other words, understanding the things that are important to you. Now, in life, we're going to spend money. Depriving ourselves usually backfires, and we all work hard, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying things. But knowing your values can also help you be more conscious about your spending. So take a moment and just really think about the things that are most important to you. These things could be family, it could be experiences, it can be hobbies, it can be education. Once you identify the things that are a top priority, think of different ways to make good use of your money in these areas. It's also important to be a mindful spender and ask, why am I making this purchase? If there's an item that you need and you can afford it and you saved up for it, I say go for it. You know, there's nothing wrong with treating ourselves. But being a mindful spender also means reflecting on whether or not an item is something you can do without. And this is really good when it comes to buying wants, because it forces you to kind of like pause for a moment and really reflect why you are making a purchase. And the reason why this is so good is because some people, we have a tendency to get caught up in emotional emotional spending. If we are upset or we're bored, shopping basically becomes your dopamine or your form of recreation. By taking a second to really step back and reflect on how you feel in that moment, it could potentially reveal a dangerous pattern of spending. Redirecting your attention elsewhere, or maybe finding some other distraction that's cost effective, that can usually help with controlling some of these impulse buys. Another thing you can do is think about purchases in terms of cost per hour. And this is a tactic that I have used so many times, and it works so well. And it's so effective because, again, it forces you to pause for a moment and really reflect on the purchase and the price. And from this point, you can then decide whether an impulse buy, which is something that you did not save for or plan for, is worth several hours of your hard work. So if something costs $300 and you make $17 an hour, that means that you would have to work over 17 hours to pay for this item. So with that bit of information, you can determine whether it's worth it or not. Another thing you can do is put back one item every time you shop. So each shopping trip, and this does not matter if you're in store or if you're filling up an online cart, commit to putting back at least one item before checkout. Now, if you can do more, that's even better. This item, it could be something that you need the least, or maybe something that you don't need at all. And I like this tip because it really forces you to think about your purchases before checkout. And that's really good because sometimes we'll put something in our cart, but as we're walking around the store and as time goes by, you know, the desire for the item can really start to go down a little bit. So if you take your cart and you evaluate it before you actually check out, you may come to the realization that you do not need a lot of stuff that you placed in your cart. Another thing you can do is ask yourself, is this the best deal? Just about everything eventually goes on sale, and thanks to the internet, comparison shopping has never been easier. If there is an upcoming holiday, there is a good chance that that item is going to be cheaper during this time. And if an item just hit the sales room floor, give it 3 to 4 weeks and there is a good chance that the retailer is going to discount the price. And one good thing about not buying an item when you first see it in comparison shopping is that as time goes by, again, your excitement for this item can also go down. So after 24 hours or 48 hours, you may not even be thinking about it again. Another thing is, don't hesitate to return something to the store. And I know this is something that some people feel a little funny about, but if you buy something and the next day you are dealing with big time buyer's remorse, that can be a good indicator that you made an unwise purchase. If you feel guilty about a purchase the next day or maybe even just a few hours later, check the store's return policy and get your money back. And I really do encourage you to strike when those emotions are fresh, because if you allow several days to go by, those feelings of buyer's remorse will start to wear off and you might even convince yourself to keep the item. So there you have it. That is my list on different ways that you can save money by spending more intentionally. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. And again, here I talk a lot about money topics and personal finance. So if you like videos like that, do consider subscribing. I post every weekend and sometimes during the week. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in a few days.